The civil rights of 11 people versus the safety of a community. That's part of what's at stake in Santa Barbara's push for a gang injunction. One expert claims similar restrictions in other parts of the state cut crime almost in half. But will that happen here? A judge is hearing a case right now, and tonight we take an in-depth look at the issue. To understand the proposed gang injunction in Santa Barbara, experts say we need to understand what's changed over the years.
Right here. Don't they need maybe some over?
March 14th of 2007, State Street was packed with tourists and shoppers, and school let out early that day. Two groups of teens got into a fight. A 15-year-old from the west side was clubbed over the head and stabbed repeatedly in the back. Luis Angel Linares, known as Nacho, was found bleeding to death in the bushes behind Saks. The suspect was 14. For some, that was the flashpoint, the start to restricting Santa Barbara's two gangs, East Side and West Side.
You're so used to Santa Barbara being the beautiful place to go, and when you have criminal activities like the murder that happened on State Street that started all this, it really jolts you in your system.
Around that same time, an ominous sign appeared in Bonnet Park. Detective Gary Siegel said he discovered a symbol linking a smaller subset of the West Side Gang to the Sureños, California's prison-based gang that serves allegiance to the Mexican mafia through taxing.
I think that all of California is under this umbrella of gang violence.
And something else started happening. The concept of gang taxing here in Santa Barbara was first discovered in July of 2009. A detective says that he came upon a man who was robbed. He was a street vendor right off of Mitchell Terrena here on the west side. It turns out that East Side and West Side gang members out on parole had begun taxing and extorting local business owners. They were targeting street vendors and drug dealers, people least likely to tell police.
These type of activities by the gang are being noticed by law MA now because Santa Barbara, and they call it Santa Bruta, is the term that they use, is an area where a lot of money can be made.
Anderson testified word on the street is orders from prison from La MA for East Side and West Side gang members to cool it, ease off their tax collecting. Apparently, talk of the injunction is making the higher-ups in prison nervous. Police are tracking Santa Barbara's 537 gang members. Red dots represent West Side, blue dots for East Side. Homicides, robberies, curfew violations, every offense is mapped.
They're not breaking down what was actually done by gang members, what was done by juveniles, what was done by adults, and it basically makes the area look a lot worse than it really is.
And why should a whole community be punished because a few people make a mistake?
Members of the group Poder see the injunction as a way for police to do what they've been doing for years.
You do have a say in what happens in your community. You do have a say of what happens to your children.
Ultimately, 4 safety zones have emerged east and west of State Street, the waterfront, and McKenzie Park. A final defendant list containing 11 names includes Raymond Boxer Macias. Macias is linked to the mastermind behind the brutal moving truck murder out of Santa Maria.
We seem to have more violence related to taxing for narcotics-related events, and we seem to have just a more violent group coming in.
I have been out of prison going on 3 years now.
Pedro Oso Garcia also made the list as a known East Side gang member.
Just to look at not our past, but our future, what we have to offer the society instead of what we did in society before when we were young.
Garcia insists he hasn't had police contact in 3 years and sees the injunction as depriving the defendants of their rights.
My plans are still live in the same place that I am. I just won't be able to take my kids to school, Blue streets!
Our streets! One thing both sides agree on, trying to wipe out the familial cycle of gang life. Overall, gang-related crime in Santa Barbara has dropped since it peaked in 2007. Again, the second week of trial starts tomorrow. Prosecutors are expected to call up a number of police officers throughout the week as witnesses.
It'll be really interesting to find out what the judge decides in this case.
It'll be very interesting. She says she may make a ruling or she may sit on it for a while.
Okay.